Today we're going to be dealing with Lesson 26 and hyperlinks and action buttons. We're going to show you how to add a hyperlink to a slide to be able to jump from one slide to another. We'll show you how to insert customized action buttons. We're going to turn a picture into a hyperlink to help disguise the hyperlinks on our slides. And then finally, we're going to use the eyedropper to select color as we create an invisible or almost invisible hyperlink area. To open the files for Lesson 26, we will need to go to our book and turn to page P-22. P-22. Here we will find the PowerPoint file that needs to be downloaded. Once the file has been downloaded, you'll want to save this to your Documents folder, placing it in a folder that has today's date. If that folder doesn't exist, you will use the New Folder button. The first thing we need to do is go to slide number 2. And on this slide, we will find, in essence, a table of contents for our slideshow. The first item here says a trip for every traveler, which if you'll look, you'll see that slide 3 has that title. The second point of slide 2 says cruise deals for spring, and slide 4 has that title. So what we're going to do is we are going to create hyperlinks to each of these items. We're going to actually start with the last one. So we're going to select contact information, and we're going to create a hyperlink using the Insert tab, Hyperlink. We're going to link to a place in this document. Specifically, we are going to link to slide number 8, which says contact information. I click OK. Now, I'm going to go to slide number 8. And what I want to do is I want to create some hyperlinks out of the text on this slide. Specifically, we want to create a hyperlink for some email. So I'm going to click after email, type in a colon and 2 spaces, and now I want to create a hyperlink. The hyperlink I'm going to create is going to be a hyperlink to an email address. So I click on the hyperlink option. Rather than going to a place in this document, I'm going to choose the option that says email address. My cursor should be in the email address area, and we're going to create the hyperlink for this particular email address. The email address that we're going to use is voyagertraveladventures.net. Now, when you type this in, you will notice that it puts the word mail to at the beginning of the email address. This is what tells the program that this is an email address and therefore to start up an email program. However, we do not want the mail to text to appear on the actual slide itself. So, I'm going to click between the colon and the contact in the text to display area. I'm going to delete out that mail to section. I click OK, and I now have an email address that appears on the slide that will create a hyperlink to that particular email address. Next, we're going to create a hyperlink to the website. So after the word website, I type in a colon and 2 spaces. And as we did a moment ago, we're going to go ahead and create a hyperlink. This time, it's going to be to an existing file or web page. In the address area, I'm going to type in www.voyagertraveladventures.net. So I've typed voyagertravels.net. Now up at the top, I do not want the HTTP to appear on the slide itself. So I'm going to click just in front of the first W and delete out the http:// so that the text that will be displayed will be the www.voyagertravels.net, and I click OK. The last thing I want to do on this slide for now is I wish to create a way to get back to slide number 2. To do that, we're going to use something called an action button. Now, on your Format tab that you are probably currently have open, there is an action button. Unfortunately, all this does is it performs an action. It doesn't actually allow us to create the button that we wish to have an action performed. To do this, we go to our shapes. So I'm clicking on the drop-down arrow for shapes. And at the very bottom of the list of shapes in PowerPoint is this option of action buttons. The left arrow gives me the ability to use a back or previous, and that's what we wish to use for our action button. So I'm going to use this action button, and I'm going to draw out in the bottom right corner this action. The dialog box appears that asks me what action do you wish to take, and the current setting is to return to the previous slide. What I want to do is I want to change this so that whenever this button, this arrow is clicked, it always returns me to slide 2 rather than the previous slide. So what we're going to do is click the drop down for previous slide. There's no option on here to go directly to slide 2, so that's where this slide ... means. So I click on slide ... It gives me a list of the slides that are in my presentation. Slide 2 is my content slide. That's where I wish to return. I click OK and OK. I now have a slide that will let me return back to slide 2. To test this out, I'm going to go to slide number 2 and start my slideshow. I see my hyperlink. I click on the contact information. It takes me to slide number 8. Now, the web address does not actually exist, so clicking on it will not take me to the website, only because that website does not really exist. And since we don't have email set up on our computers, the email contact won't really function properly because we don't have an email program. We're going to return back to slide 2 by using our action button. So I click on the action button, returns me back to slide 2. Pressing the escape key. What we are going to do next is to basically set up the other 4 slides. So I start by selecting the first item, a trip for every traveler. We create the link using insert hyperlink. Link to a place in this document and go to the same place that is highlighted, a trip for every traveler. Now I want to go to that slide and create a return button, an action button, going to the shapes option, shapes. Come down here to the arrow pointing to the left, creating my button, and then telling it to go to slide number 2. Going back to slide 2, we now need to repeat the process for slides 2, for cruise deals for spring, spring travel specials, and adventure travel packages. I'm going to work through these items on the screen. Now that you've completed this exercise, I'd like you to please go to slide 6. On this slide, what we're going to do is we are going to remove the action button that we put there and replace it with a picture that relates to traveling. So let's first put the picture in place. So I'm going to go, since there's no content area, I'm going to go to Online Pictures and type in for my Bing search, travel. Choose a picture that appears. Resize the picture to have a height of no more than 2 inches. And place the picture down where the action button would go. I'm going to select the action button and go ahead and delete that action button out. And now I'm going to take the picture and turn the picture into a hyperlink. I do that by going to Insert, Hyperlink, tell it to go to slide number 2. And now, if I start my slideshow, I have a hyperlink on the slide, but it's not obvious because the hyperlink is my picture. So clicking on the picture takes me back to slide 2, Adventure Travel Packages. It allows me to go back and forth now. Let's go to Spring Travel Specials. This is slide number 5. My goal is I wish to create a hyperlink area, but I don't wish to use the button. So I want to make a spot that isn't obvious to the user that it's here, but I do want to be able to create a hyperlink back to slide 2. Well, the way I'm going to do this is by creating a simple shape. So I'm going to go to Shape and choose my rectangle. Now I'm going to draw out my rectangle down in this bottom corner here, and we're going to remove the old action button that we placed here. Moving this rectangle to the bottom left corner, we're going to turn it into a hyperlink as we did with our picture. Insert, Hyperlink, and link back to our contents page. Now obviously at this point, this hyperlink area is very obvious on the slide. To make it less obvious, what we're going to do is make the hyperlink, the rectangle, appear the same color as the background. If we go to Format this shape, we can choose our shape fill. To pick the color that we wish to use, what we're going to do is we're going to use this eyedropper. Using the eyedropper allows us to move our mouse on the screen and pick a color that is similar to the color on the slide. I'm going to take my mouse and click right next to that red square. I need to change the color of the line as well. That's my shape outline. This time I'm going to use this recent colors chosen. Click on that, and that will make my box practically disappear in the bottom right corner. I click away from the box. If I start my slideshow, I now have an invisible area with which I could use for a hyperlink. All I now need to do is move my mouse into the bottom right corner. I click down in this bottom right corner, and it takes me back to slide number 2. Pressing the Escape key. This concludes the activity for this particular file. So you'll want to save this file. If you haven't done so, make sure you save it to upload to Schoology. In this activity, we created several hyperlinks on our slides. We added action buttons to be able to hyperlink using an action button, and then we modified a picture to be able to use a picture in place of an action button, and we also demonstrated the use of the eyedropper in order to pick a color from our slide so that we could match the color of our square.